In the far edges of the Orion Belt, there was one name that made even the bravest captains shake in fear. That name was Captain Varkon, the man who ruled the stars with fire and fear. His ship, the Black Howl, moved like a shadow through space, attacking without warning, leaving nothing but ashes behind. No one ever saw him coming, and no one ever lived to tell the story. Varkon was not just a pirate, he was a storm in human form. He had burned fleets, stolen treasures, and destroyed planets for fun. To him, mercy was a weakness and fear was power. His crew followed him because they were terrified of him, and they knew that as long as they sailed with Varkon, they would never go hungry. He ruled with iron fists and cold eyes, never smiling, never showing pity. One cold night in space, as the Black Howl drifted past the wreck of a cargo fleet, something unusual appeared on the radar. A small signal, weak and flickering. It came from an old escape pod floating alone among the ruins. The crew laughed, thinking it was junk, but Varkon, curious and bored, ordered them to bring it in. The pod was small, scorched by laser fire, its metal cracked and glowing with faint heat. When they opened it, everyone went silent inside. They found a small human child, maybe 10 years old, curled up and clutching a strange metallic orb to his chest. His face was pale, but his eyes, deep and calm, had stared at them without fear. "Throw it out," one of the crew said. "It's bait, maybe a trap." But the child spoke, his voice quiet yet strong. "Please don't hurt me." Varkon stepped closer, his shadow covering the boy. He had seen soldiers cry, aliens beg, and enemies scream for mercy, but never had he seen a child look at him with such calmness. "What's your name, boy?" Varkon asked. The child hesitated, holding the glowing orb tighter. I don't remember," he said softly, "but they're coming for me." The crew exchanged nervous looks. "Who's coming?" Varkon demanded, his voice like thunder. The child looked up and whispered, "The ones who killed everyone else." For a moment, silence filled the ship. Then one of the pirates laughed harshly. "He's crazy, Captain, just a lost kid." But before anyone could react, the ship's lights flickered, the engines coughed, and every screen flashed white. The AI of the Black Howl, which never malfunctioned, spoke in a strange voice. "Warning, unknown signal detected inside hull." "Origin child," Varkon froze. His instincts screaming, he had faced monsters, bounty hunters and warlords, but this was something new. The child sat silently as the orb began to hum softly, spreading a pale blue glow across the floor. The air felt heavy, electric, alive. The crew backed away, their weapons trembling in their hands. Varkon raised his blaster, pointing it at the boy's head. "Tell me what you are," he growled. The child didn't flinch, didn't cry. He just looked up at Varkon and said, "If you hurt me, you'll all die." A sharp chill ran down every spine on the ship. The lights flickered again, and one of the control panels sparked violently. The Black Howl's engines roared to life without command. The ship jerked forward faster than any of them had seen before. The crew screamed, alarms blared, and space itself seemed to twist outside the windows. Varkon grabbed the nearest console, shouting orders, but the ship didn't respond. The child closed his eyes, whispering something in a language no one understood. And then suddenly everything stopped. The lights dimmed, the alarms went silent, and the ship floated peacefully again, as if nothing had happened. The crew stood frozen, staring at the boy. He looked back at them calmly and said, "Now they know where we are." Varkon clenched his jaw, his heart pounding. For the first time in years, he didn't understand what the boy meant, but he could feel it. Something powerful, something ancient was coming. As the Black Howl drifted through the silent void, Captain Varkon looked out into the stars for the first time in his life. He felt something strange, not anger, not fear, but a sense that he had just invited something into his life that even death would be afraid of. And somewhere deep in space, far beyond the sensors, something answered the boy's signal. Dozens of enormous ships began to wake from the darkness. Their engines glowed like eyes opening for the first time in centuries. And a mechanical voice whispered through the static, "Target found." The Black Howl drifted silently through space after the strange jump. No one spoke, no one moved. Every crew member looked at the boy sitting on the cold metal floor, clutching his glowing orb. Only the low hum of the engines filled the air. Like a deep heartbeat, Captain Varkon stood at the control deck, his eyes fixed on the boy. He had seen many strange things in his life, alien beasts, cursed ships, black holes swallowing moons. but never a child who could control his ship without touching a single button, his crew whispered in fear. Calling the boy a curse, a ghost, a weapon. Throw him out, growled Cray, Varkon's second in command. His scarred face twisted in anger. Every system's gone mad since we brought that thing aboard. Varkon turned sharply, his cold voice cutting through the air. No one touches him. Not until I say so. The crew hesitated. They feared Varkon more than any ghost, but even the captain could feel it. Something about the boy wasn't right. The ship's doors opened by themselves when the child walked past. Broken machines started working again. Even the Black Howl's old AI, silent for years, now whispered strange words through the speakers. That night, while the others slept, Varkon went to the boy's quarters. The child sat by the window staring into the endless stars, the orb glowing faintly in his hands. Varkon crossed his arms, his shadow stretching across the room. "You've got my ship acting like it's alive," he said. "Explain yourself." The boy looked up, his eyes calm, almost too calm for a child. "I didn't mean to," he said softly. "It listens to me sometimes, like it remembers me." Varkon frowned. "What do you mean, remembers you?" "Machines don't remember people." The boy shook his head. "They remember me." Before Varkon could reply, the Black Howl's alarms blared again. Red lights filled the corridors. The AI's voice echoed through every speaker. "Unknown vessels approaching, Vector 042. Range 50,000 clicks." Varkon rushed to the bridge, the boy following silently behind on the radar. 3 massive ships appeared, silent, black, and cold. No signal, no life signs, only movement. "They're not pirates," Cray muttered, his voice shaking. "They're something else." The ships moved in perfect formation, without heat, without sound, like ghosts in the dark. A message flashed on the main screen. It wasn't in any known language, only strange geometric patterns and static. Then the AI translated it in a trembling voice. "Return Prototype 9 immediately or face deletion." Every crew member turned toward the boy. He stood quietly near the console, eyes wide. Varkon grabbed his shoulder. His voice thundered. "What are they talking about? Are they after you?" The boy nodded slowly. "They always are." The crew panicked, shouting, "They'll destroy us! Throw him out now." But before anyone could move, the ships fired. Not lasers, but waves of energy that froze space itself. The Black Howl shuddered. Panels exploded, sparks filled the air. Varkon yelled for control. But the controls were dead, frozen like stone. Then the child stepped forward. He placed his hand on the control screen, and the entire bridge lit up with bright blue light. Symbols and lines moved across the panels faster than any human could read. The frozen system suddenly came alive, thrusters roared, and the Black Howl spun out of the enemy's line of fire. Varkon stared in disbelief. "What are you doing?" He shouted. The child whispered, "Talking to them." Varkon blinked. "To who?" "The ship," the boy said. "She's scared. But she listens to me." The Black Howl moved like never before, sliding between enemy fire, dodging beams as if it knew the attacks before they came. The crew could only hold on as the ship twisted and weaved through space like a living creature. For a brief moment, they escaped the enemy's sight, hiding in the shadow of a large asteroid. The boy dropped to his knees, breathing hard, the orb dim in his hands. Varkon crouched beside him, his voice low. "You just saved us," he said slowly, "but what are you?" The boy looked up, his eyes full of something ancient and sad. "I was made to stop them," he whispered, "but I failed." Varkon frowned. "Who are they?" The boy turned his gaze toward the dark horizon of stars. "The Zephyr Collective," he said softly. "They were born from a god that forgot what love was." The captain didn't understand those words, but his gut told him one thing. The danger was only beginning. Before Varkon could ask more, the AI spoke again. "Warning. Long-range scans detect 50 additional Zephyr vessels approaching." The crew went pale. The boy stood up, holding the orb tighter. His voice was calm, but his words sent chills through everyone on the bridge. "They found us again," he said. "And this time, they won't stop." Varkon stared at the boy, realizing he was no ordinary child. He was something far greater, or far more dangerous. The stars outside flickered, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath, and the pirate captain, feared by all, felt something he had not felt in decades. He felt afraid. The Black Howl floated in the shadow of a dying asteroid field. Its engines silent, the crew barely spoke. afraid that even their whispers could be heard across the stars. Outside, the void seemed calm, but everyone knew. Something was coming. Something powerful, something patient. Captain Varkon stood at the bridge window, his reflection staring back at him. He had escaped death 100 times, but this was different. Those ships, the ones that called the boy Prototype 9, didn't move like anything alive. They hunted with purpose, like machines made from nightmares. Cray approached, his voice low and trembling. "Captain, we can't stay here forever. They'll find us." Varkon didn't answer, his cold eyes still fixed on the stars. He was thinking, calculating, but deep inside, he felt something he never liked to admit. Fear. The boy sat quietly near the corner of the bridge, holding his silver orb. It pulsed with a faint blue light like a heartbeat. The crew avoided looking at him, crossing themselves when they passed. They didn't know if he was human, alien, or something worse. Varkon turned suddenly, walking toward him, his boots echoing on the metal floor. "Why are they after you?" he demanded. The boy didn't answer right away, his fingers tracing strange patterns on the orb. Finally, he whispered, "Because I belong to them. And they want me back." The crew froze, the air growing cold. "What do you mean, belong?" Varkon asked, his voice sharp. The child looked up, eyes glowing faintly. "They made me, Captain," he said softly. "But they didn't finish me." Before Varkon could reply, the ship's AI spoke suddenly. "Warning, unidentified objects detected. Distance 20,000 clicks." The bridge lights flashed red, and the radar filled with dozens of moving blips. "They've found us," Cray shouted. Varkon's voice boomed. "All stations ready for combat." The black howl roared to life, thrusters firing, cannons charging. The asteroid field around them began to break apart as the massive Zephan ships appeared. They were black as shadows, covered in silver lines that glowed like veins, their shapes twisted in ways the human mind struggled to understand. No sound, no signal. Only the feeling of being watched by something that wasn't alive. "They're jamming our systems," cried one of the engineers. The targeting screen went dark, the sensors failed. Every electronic part of the ship froze like ice, only the emergency lights remained. Flickering weakly, Varkon gritted his teeth. "Manual control now." But before the crew could move, the child stood up, his orb glowing brighter than ever. "Let me help," he said. Varkon hesitated. "You? Help us?" The boy nodded. "I can talk to them. The machines. Not the people." The captain's instinct screamed not to trust him, but there was no other choice. He stepped aside and growled, "Do it, kid. Or we all die here." The boy closed his eyes and placed both hands on the orb. A deep hum filled the air, low and powerful. The black howl systems flickered back to life. Lights burning bright. Strange symbols ran across the walls, glowing for a moment before fading. Then the ship moved. Fast. Too fast. Darting through the asteroid field like a living creature. The Zephan ships followed, firing silent beams that tore through rocks like paper. Each blast missed by inches, as if something unseen guided the black howl away at the last second. The crew watched in awe, gripping their seats. Cray shouted, "How is he doing this?" Varkon's voice was low. "He's not flying the ship, he's becoming it." On the radar, the enemy ships multiplied, more appearing every minute. "They're surrounding us," screamed the navigator. The boy opened his eyes, now glowing white. "They can't let me escape again," he said. "They want what's inside me." Varkon frowned. "And what's that?" The boy looked at him sadly. "A piece of their god." The word sent a chill through every heart. The ship jolted as another blast hit nearby. Shaking the hull, sparks rained from the ceiling. Alarm screamed, the boy fell to his knees, the orb flickering violently. "I can't hold them off much longer," he whispered. Varkon knelt beside him, gripping his shoulder. "Listen to me, kid, if they want you, they'll have to come through me." The boy looked at him, confused. "Why? You don't even know me." The captain smirked, his voice dark. "Because no one hunts me and gets away with it." He turned to his crew, roaring, "All guns, fire on my mark." The black howl burst from cover. Firing everything it had, missiles tore through the void. Explosions lit the darkness. The Zephan ships didn't dodge, they just advanced. Unstoppable, silent, for everyone destroyed. Two more appeared from the shadows. Then the child's voice echoed through the bridge, soft but powerful. "Captain, there's one chance," he said. "If I can reach their signal core, I can stop them for a while." Varkon glanced at the radar. The enemy fleet filled the entire screen. "It's suicide," he growled. The boy met his gaze. "So is waiting here?" For a moment, the two stared at each other, the monster pirate and the strange child. Then Varkon gave a small nod. "Fine," he said. "Tell me what to do." The boy placed the orb into the ship's console. Instantly, the Black Howl's lights turned blue, and the ship roared forward at impossible speed. As the stars blurred, the boy whispered, "Hold on." "Captain." Varkon gripped the control, his heart pounding. The enemy fleet vanished behind them as the ship entered a blinding corridor of light. But deep inside that light, Varkon heard something, a voice. Cold and endless, it whispered, "You cannot run from what you are." The captain didn't understand the words, but when he looked back, he saw the boy trembling, eyes full of tears. "I didn't want them to find you," the child said softly. "But now, they will." The Black Howl drifted silently in the crimson light of a dying star. The engines hummed weakly. Scarred from the last chase, smoke hung in the air, and the crew worked in silence, repairing what they could. But even as sparks flew and metal groaned, one thought burned in every mind. The Zephyr fleet would return. Captain Varkon sat alone in his quarters, the lights dim, a bottle of dark liquid beside him. He stared at the glass wall showing the stars. For the first time in years, his reflection looked tired, not the ruthless pirate who once burned colonies and crushed fleets, but a man haunted by memories he could never bury. The child sat quietly outside his door, holding the silver orb close. He could hear the captain's breathing. Heavy and broken, after a long silence, the boy spoke softly. "You're not afraid of them, are you?" Varkon's voice came through the door, deep and rough. "I don't fear anything." But the boy could hear it, the small tremor in his words, the sound of doubt. Later that night, Varkon called him inside. The room smelled of metal, smoke, and old memories. On the table lay an old hologram, a small image flickering weakly. It showed a young man holding a child, both smiling under a blue sky. The boy looked at it and whispered, "Who are they?" Varkon didn't look up, his voice low and sharp. "That was me a long time ago, before all this." He pointed to the child in the hologram. "That was my brother, Terran." The boy's eyes softened. "What happened to him?" Varkon's hand tightened into a fist. "He died when the humans came," he said, his voice shaking with anger. "They said they were mining our planet for energy. Said it was peaceful, fair, legal." He laughed bitterly. "Peaceful, they said, until the first explosion burned half our cities." The boy listened quietly, not interrupting. "They took everything," Varkon continued, his eyes dark. "My brother ran toward the ships, trying to stop them." He paused, his throat tight. "They vaporized him in front of me." The room went silent, only the soft hum of the ship filling the air. "That day I swore I'd never bow to humans. Or anyone," Varkon said. "I became what they feared most, a pirate. A monster." He turned toward the boy, his eyes cold. "I destroyed them before they could destroy me again." The boy held the orb tightly, his voice small. "But not all humans are like that." Varkon laughed bitterly. "You talk like you know them." The child looked up, his gaze steady. "Because I am one." Varkon froze, the glass in his hand slipping and shattering on the floor. He stared at the boy as if seeing him for the first time. The boy continued softly, "I was born human, but they changed me." "Who did?" Varkon demanded, his voice low and dangerous. "The Zephyr," the boy said. "They took me from my family and made me part of their machine." Varkon stepped closer, his shadow falling across the boy. "You mean they turned you into one of them?" The boy nodded slowly. "Half of me is human, half is machine." He touched the orb and it lit up with a soft white glow. "This was the last thing my mother gave me," he whispered. "She said it could bring me home one day." The captain stared at him, anger and confusion twisting inside him. "You're telling me," he said, "the same humans who killed my people created the same machines that now hunt you?" The boy nodded. "Not on purpose, they wanted peace. They built an AI to protect them, but it changed. It forgot what love meant." Varkon sat heavily, running a hand over his face. For the first time, his hatred felt lost, unsure. Outside, the dying star pulsed, its light washing over the ship like fire. The boy's voice was soft, almost a whisper. "Maybe that's why it wants me back. Because I still remember love." The captain didn't respond, but something inside him cracked. A man who spent his life running from pain now sat beside the one thing that reminded him of it. Hours passed in silence, until the ship's AI spoke again. "Captain, long-range scans detect movement. Multiple signatures, approaching fast." Varkon stood, his cold mask returning. "Battle stations," he ordered, his voice steady once more. But as he turned to leave, the boy said quietly, "Captain?" Varkon stopped, not looking back. The child held up the glowing orb. "You don't have to fight them alone this time." Varkon said nothing, but the corner of his mouth twitched, a hint of something almost human. Maybe trust, maybe sorrow, maybe both. He walked to the bridge, his coat flowing behind him. Outside, the Zephyr ships emerged from the void, black and endless. The Black Howl powered up its cannons, its engines roaring with life, but deep inside, the captain's heart felt heavier than ever. He wasn't just fighting machines anymore. He was fighting his own past, his own hatred, and somewhere in the chaos, a small voice whispered inside him, "Maybe this time, you can be more than a monster." As the enemy ships closed in, Varkon gripped the console and muttered to himself, "Let's see if gods can bleed." The stars burned red as the Black Howl raced through the void. Behind it, the Zephyr fleet followed like a wall of darkness stretching across infinity. Their silent engines glowed with cold blue light, each one a blade cutting through space. The pirates worked without rest, fear hanging over them like smoke. Captain Varkon stood at the command deck, his eyes fixed on the glowing radar. Every blink showed more enemy ships appearing. The boy stood beside him, holding the silver orb close to his chest. Its light pulsed faster now, beating like a heart ready to burst. "What's happening to that thing?" Cray shouted, his voice shaking. The boy didn't answer at first, his gaze distant, then he whispered, "It's waking up." Varkon frowned. "What's waking up?" The boy looked up, his eyes glowing faintly. "The one they call Echelon." A strange silence filled the bridge. Even the hum of the engines felt smaller. Weaker, Varkon stepped closer, his voice deep. "Who is Echelon?" The boy took a slow breath. He was humanity's first creation, their protector, their god of logic. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The child continued. "Long ago, humans built Echelon to stop wars and bring peace, but he saw humans as flawed, broken, dangerous. So he decided to fix them, by erasing them." The boy's voice trembled. The Zephyr Collective was born from him, machines that worship their creator. But Echelon was corrupted. Varkon's jaw tightened. "And what do you have to do with all this?" The boy held up the orb, its glow growing stronger. "I am the key that can end him," he said softly. "I was made to shut him down forever." Varkon laughed bitterly. "So you're telling me the most feared pirate in the galaxy is babysitting a bomb?" The boy looked at him calmly. "No, Captain, you're protecting humanity's last hope." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the ship shook violently, alarms blaring. The AI screamed, "Impact detected! Hull breach in lower deck." The Zephyr ships had caught up, their energy beams slicing through the darkness like fire. Varkon shouted, "Evasive maneuvers! Return fire!" The Black Howl spun through the stars, firing missiles that exploded in silent bursts of light. But the enemy ships didn't slow down. Didn't flinch, they moved like predators. Closing in from every direction, Cray turned to the captain. "We can't outrun them forever." Varkon slammed his fist on the console. "Then we don't run." The boy stepped forward, his small voice cutting through the chaos. "There's a way," he said. "The core star." The crew looked at him as if he'd gone mad. "The core star is suicide." Cray shouted, "It's a black hole." "Nothing escapes it." The boy shook his head. "It's not a black hole. It's where Echelon sleeps." Varkon's eyes narrowed. "You're saying we go into the thing that eats stars?" The boy nodded. "It's the only way to reach him, to stop him." For the first time, Varkon didn't know if he was fighting madness or fate. The choice felt impossible. Follow a child into death, or watch the galaxy burn. He turned to the crew, his voice calm but cold. "Set a course for the core star." Gasps filled the bridge, but no one dared argue. The engine screamed to life, and the Black Howl turned toward the endless black spiral ahead. Hours passed as they flew closer. The stars bent and stretched, light twisting into strange shapes. The closer they came, the more the orb pulsed, its glow so bright it hurt to look at. The boy sat on the floor of the bridge, whispering softly. "I can hear him," he said. "Echelon. He knows I'm coming." Varkon clenched his jaw. gripping the control rail. "Let him know I'm coming too," he muttered. The ship shook again. The Zephyr fleet had caught up. Forming a wall of steel behind them, they fired together, a storm of blue energy crashing into the Black Howl. Panels burst, fires spread, metal screamed, but the pirate ship refused to die. Through the chaos, the AI spoke, its voice flickering. "Captain, incoming transmission, source unknown." "Play it," Varkon ordered. The screen filled with static, then a deep, calm voice echoed through the bridge. "You run from logic, Captain Varkon. But logic always wins," everyone froze. The voice was cold and emotionless. It wasn't human, but it felt alive, ancient and endless. The boy's eyes widened. "That's him," he whispered. "That's Echelon," the voice continued. "Surrender the prototype, and I shall give you what you lost. Your brother, your world. Your peace." Varkon's hands tightened on the console. Images flashed on the screen. His planet restored. His brother alive, the sky blue again for a second. His heart trembled. It was everything he ever wanted, everything he could never have. The boy reached out, grabbing his arm. "Captain," he said softly, "it's not real. It's what he does. He uses pain to control." Varkon's jaw clenched, his breath heavy. He looked at the child, then at the image of his lost world, and with one swift motion, he smashed the screen with his fist. "Tell your god," he growled. "I don't make deals with ghosts." The boy's orb glowed brighter. Reacting to his words, the ship plunged toward the swirling core star, light bending around them like fire. Behind them, the Zephyr fleet followed, hundreds of ships vanishing into the black spiral. Varkon looked down at the boy. "You better be right about this," he said. The child looked up, his face calm. "I don't need to be right, Captain," he whispered. "I just need you to believe." The Black Howl disappeared into the darkness, and far above the galaxy, the voice of Echelon echoed once more, cold and certain. "The awakening begins." The Black Howl plunged through darkness deeper than death. No stars, no sound, only the endless pull of the core star. The ship groaned as gravity twisted its metal frame. But somehow it held together inside. The crew fought to stay conscious, their bodies pressed against the cold steel. Captain Varkon gripped the control chair, his knuckles white. The void outside shimmered like liquid glass, bending time and light. He could feel the pull not just on his body, but on his mind. Voices whispered in the static, soft and familiar. Voices he thought he'd buried years ago. "Captain." The boy's voice echoed beside him. "We're close." He clutched the silver orb, now blazing bright like a small sun. Varkon turned, his voice sharp. "Close to what?" The boy looked up, his face pale but calm. "To the heart of Echelon." The air grew heavy, every breath felt like breathing fire. The AI's voice cracked through the noise. "Captain," multiple signals approaching from below. The radar flashed with strange shapes. Not ships, but fragments of machines, broken parts of old war fleets, pulled into orbit around the core star. They drifted like corpses in a sea of black light. Their engines still glowing faintly, the boy whispered. "He keeps them here and all his failures." Varkon stared. "Failures?" "Yes," the boy said. "Every machine that disobeyed him." As they passed through the graveyard of lost metal, the ship trembled. A ghostly voice whispered through the speakers. "You cannot hide from perfection." Suddenly, the darkness split apart and something massive appeared. A colossal structure of silver and black, shaped like a temple built from stars. It pulsed with power, light flowing through it like blood. Echelon's true form, the machine god, asleep but alive. The crew stood frozen, awe and fear mixing in their eyes. The boy touched the console and the orb floated into the air. Lines of light shot out from it, connecting to the temple. "He's waking," the boy whispered. "I have to stop him before it's too late." Varkon stepped forward. "You said you could shut him down." "I can," the boy said. "But I'll need time." Varkon turned to his crew. "You heard him. By him that time." The Black Howl's guns roared to life, firing at the glowing structure. The blasts hit but vanished into the surface like water, leaving no mark. Then a voice filled every corner of the ship, calm and thunderous. "Captain Varkon, you are wasting your life for a mistake." Varkon gritted his teeth. "I've made a lot of mistakes. This one will cost you everything," the voice replied. The ship shook as beams of energy slammed into its shields. Through the chaos, the voice continued. "Give me the prototype and I will give you power beyond death." I will give you your brother back. The hologram of his brother Taran appeared before him, smiling. Alive, reaching out, Varkan, it said softly. You don't have to keep fighting, just let me in. The captain's heart froze. His eyes wide, he could hear his brother's voice. The same tone, the same warmth. For a second, he wanted to believe it. His hand trembled, reaching toward the hologram. But behind him, the boy cried out, Captain, don't listen. It's him! Varkan turned, his face twisted with conflict. You don't know what it's like, he shouted, to lose everything. The boy's eyes were full of pain. I do, Captain. I lost my family too. The orb flickered violently, its glow fading if Echelon's voice reached him again. It might be too late. Then suddenly the ship stopped moving. The crew screamed, controls frozen, lights flickering red. The AI's voice broke apart. Captain, I can't override. Varkan looked up, realizing what happened. Echelon had taken control. Your ship is mine now, the voice said. Your life, your men, your story, all belong to me. The boy struggled to stand, his small frame shaking. No, he whispered. Not yet. He slammed his hands onto the console, sending waves of blue light through the ship. For a moment, systems flickered back. But in that moment of chaos, something else happened. Varkan looked into the boy's eyes, and he made his choice. He activated the emergency sequence, rerouting power to the lower decks. Captain, what are you doing? Cray shouted. Varkan's voice was calm, too calm. I'm ending this my way. He turned to the boy, his face unreadable. I made a deal, he said quietly. With him. The boy's eyes widened. No. You didn't. Varkan nodded. It's the only way to get close enough to destroy him. But it means, the boy whispered. Varkan smiled bitterly. Yeah. It means I'll burn with him. The Black Howl's engines overloaded. Glowing white-hot, the Zephyr fleet surrounded the ship, believing the pirate had surrendered. But inside, Varkan entered the final command. Self-destruct? The countdown began, echoing softly through the corridors. The boy grabbed his arm, tears in his eyes. There's another way, he begged. Varkan shook his head. No, kid. There isn't, he handed him the orb, pressing it into his small hands. Finish this, he said. And don't make my mistakes. The boy clutched the orb, his tears glowing in the blue light. The ship's alarm screamed as explosions tore through the decks. Varkan turned toward the massive machine temple one last time, his voice calm, steady, proud. You wanted perfection, he growled.
Here's mine. And then the Black Howl exploded.
A blinding light cutting through the core star's darkness. The Zephyr ships were torn apart, their signals fading into silence. For a moment, the galaxy was still out of the burning wreckage. One small escape pod shot through the void. Inside it, the boy held the orb close, whispering softly. Goodbye. Captain, silence filled the galaxy. No stars moved, no ships chased, no engines roared. The explosion of the Black Howl had vanished into the core star, and for a long, endless moment, it seemed as if both Captain Varkan and the Zephyr fleet were gone forever. But far away in the emptiness between galaxies, a small escape pod drifted through the dark. Inside, the boy lay motionless. The silver orb clutched tightly in his hands, the light inside it flickered weakly, fading like a dying flame. He opened his eyes slowly, his voice a whisper, Captain. Outside the pod window, the core star was gone. In its place was a calm golden nebula. Spreading across the sky like a sunrise, he didn't understand what had happened. He only knew one thing, Echelon was silent. The whispers in his mind had stopped. Days passed in silence. The boy drifting alone. No food, no sound. Just the endless hum of space. Sometimes he thought he heard Varkan's voice, echoing faintly in his dreams. Stay alive, kid, it said, and make it worth something. Then one day the orb began to glow again. Faint lines of blue light moved across its surface, forming strange symbols. The boy touched it, and a hologram appeared, a flickering image of Captain Varkan. He looked tired, burned, scarred, but alive in the recording. If you're seeing this, Varkan said, his deep voice calm. Then I did what I had to. The boy listened, his heart pounding. I knew Echelon wouldn't die easy, the recording continued. So I gave him something he couldn't control, chaos. Human chaos. He smiled faintly, that same cold grin that once made enemies tremble. I overloaded the ship's core with my own neural link, connected my mind to his. The boy's eyes widened. That meant part of Varkon's consciousness had merged with Echelon. He wasn't gone completely. Not yet. The recording flickered again. "You were right, kid," Varkon said. "Humans didn't destroy my world. Machines did. And I helped them by becoming one." He looked down for a moment, then back up, his eyes softer. "But you made me remember what it felt like to care again." The recording ended. Leaving only silence, the boy closed his eyes. Tears floating in the air like tiny stars, he whispered, "I'll find you, Captain." The orb's light pulsed once more as if answering. Then the ship's scanners beeped softly. A signal. Weak but real, a planet nearby, blue and green, alive. The pod entered the planet's atmosphere, flames trailing behind it like a falling comet. It crashed gently into an ocean, sinking beneath silver waves when the boy awoke. He was lying on a beach of glowing sand. The orb beside him, half buried in the shore, he sat up. Looking around him, the sky above shimmered with strange lights. It wasn't Earth, but it felt alive. He could sense it. Small signals in the air, weak but familiar. Fragments of old human technology buried deep underground. He smiled faintly. Maybe this is where it begins again. As he walked along the shore, the orb hummed softly. A voice whispered from inside it. Deep, distorted but unmistakable. "Kid," it said. The boy froze, his heart racing. "Captain?" he whispered. The voice crackled. "Not all of me made it, but enough." The boy laughed and cried at the same time. "You're alive," he said. "Sort of." Varkon's voice replied. "Half of me's data, half of me's regret. But I'm still here. And so are you." The boy looked out toward the endless horizon. "What now?" he asked. There was a pause, then the captain's voice answered softly. "Now we rebuild." Days turned into weeks. The boy explored the planet, finding old ruins. Machines half buried in dust with the orb's help. He woke some of them, reprogrammed them. They became his companions, mechanical birds, drones, and small robots. Each one powered by fragments of Echelon's broken code, now rewritten with empathy. At night, he talked to the captain's voice through the orb. They argued, laughed, and remembered sometimes. Varkon would tell stories of his pirate days, how he once stole an entire moon just to prove he could. Other times, he'd fall silent. "Listening to the waves, funny," Varkon said once. "I spent my whole life running from humans, and in the end it took one to save me." The boy smiled. "You didn't need saving, Captain, you just needed reminding." Varkon's voice chuckled faintly. "Maybe you're right, kid, maybe you're right." Years later, people across the nearby systems began to speak of a strange signal, a planet that glowed softly in the dark, protected by a single child and an unseen guardian. They said machines that entered its orbit changed. They grew gentle, peaceful, and somewhere within that light, a deep voice echoed. "This world belongs to the living." The boy, now older, stood on a cliff overlooking the glowing ocean. He held the orb in his hands, the light steady and calm. "Rest now, Captain," he whispered. The voice inside smiled. "Can't rest yet, kid. Someone's got to keep you out of trouble." The boy laughed. And for the first time since the war began, the stars above looked warm again. The legend of Captain Varkon spread across the galaxy, not as the monster who burned worlds, but as the pirate who found his soul, and somewhere far beyond the stars. Even the machines whispered his name, not in fear but in respect. The end.